Imagine a machine. It requires no electricity. It takes up no space. It costs nothing to maintain. Yet, it has the power to reshape your bones, regulate your hormones, and protect your heart from silent, deadly diseases. That machine is the floor beneath your feet, and the only fuel it needs is your own body weight. Most people believe change only comes from hours of painful workouts in the gym, from expensive machines, from complex programs so demanding that no one can sustain them. But biology doesn't work that way. The human body doesn't change through miracles. It changes through small, consistent pressure applied day after day. And one of the most powerful pressures ever discovered is the push-up. So, what actually happens if you do just 20 push-ups a day? It sounds like too little. So little that many people dismiss it. But biology doesn't care what feels like a lot or a little. It only reads signals. 20 push-ups are a minimum effective dose, enough to force adaptation, but not enough to drive you into exhaustion or injury. This isn't a test of willpower. This is a conversation with biology. The moment you lower your body toward the floor, your system exits metabolic sleep. Your nervous system registers a mild emergency. Your brain scrambles to recruit muscle groups that have been dormant for years of sitting. Inside each muscle cell, mitochondria accelerate energy production, burning through ATP and creatine within seconds. By around the 10th repetition, your body shifts into anaerobic metabolism. Lactic acid accumulates, and the burning sensation appears. That is not failure. That is a signal being sent. At the microscopic level, muscle fibers sustain tiny amounts of damage. It sounds alarming, but this is the key. These micro-injuries trigger a healing immune response. Inflammation appears, not destructive inflammation, but rebuilding inflammation. The next day, your arms feel stiff. Your hands may shake. Your body is saying, "Something happened. I need to prepare better." After about a week, the shaking fades. Not because your muscles suddenly grew larger, but because your brain learned to control them more efficiently. This is neural strength adaptation. The brain sends cleaner signals, recruits fibers more precisely, and coordinates movement better. You get stronger without gaining weight. At the same time, your core wakes up. A push-up is essentially a moving plank. Your spine stabilizes. Your posture improves. You sit straighter, not by effort, but because biology no longer tolerates collapse. As the weeks go on, the body shifts from repair to reinforcement. Muscle thickens just enough. Tendons, which adapt slowly, begin to strengthen. Bones in the wrists and arms receive mechanical stress signals and increase density. This is an anti-aging defense that no supplement can replace. Metabolism changes too. Every gram of new muscle is tissue that burns energy even while you sleep. You become a more efficient system, not just a leaner one. But what most people never talk about is the brain and hormones. During resistance exercise, muscles release signaling molecules called myokines. One of them stimulates the production of BDNF, a growth factor that supports brain cells. At the same time, 2 minutes of focused breathing and movement pull you out of daily mental noise. Cortisol drops. The prefrontal cortex responsible for focus and decision-making functions better. You don't become smarter because you did push-ups. You become clearer because biological noise is reduced. After about 3 months, nearly 2,000 push-ups are behind you. This is no longer a challenge. This is the new normal. Your heart pumps more efficiently. Insulin sensitivity improves. Hormones stabilize. You respond more calmly and confidently, not through motivation, but because your body has learned responsibility. Of course, any medicine becomes harmful if used incorrectly. Poor push-up form with elbows flared wide can quietly damage your shoulders. And once 20 becomes too easy, the adaptive signal weakens. The solution isn't more repetitions, it's slower movement. 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up. Increased time under tension forces biology to adapt again. If your body could speak after 3 months, it wouldn't talk about chest size or shoulder width. It would say, "Thank you for preserving my structure. Thank you for proving that I can still grow." 20 push-ups a day are a small act, but they resist a world that wants you weaker, more tired, more dependent. It isn't the 2 minutes on the floor that matter. It's the other 23 hours and 58 minutes. When you carry yourself like someone who has mastered their own weight, the floor is still there. Your biology is ready. The only thing missing is the first push. There are a few critical pieces still missing, and without them, the story of 20 push-ups a day remains incomplete both scientifically and in real life. The first is neurological sustainability. The human body doesn't fail because of a lack of knowledge. It fails because the nervous system becomes overloaded. Long, intense, complex training plans often trigger avoidance responses. The brain perceives them as long-term threats. 20 push-ups are different. They're too small for the brain to resist. No outfit change, no travel, no massive surge of motivation required. That's why this habit bypasses the psychological barrier that has destroyed most health improvement efforts. This is not a minor detail. This is a survival factor. Second is the impact on biological age, not the number written on paper. Load-bearing force from push-ups sends a direct signal to bones, tendons, and connective tissue that this body is still being used. When the body doesn't receive that signal, it begins pulling resources into conservation mode. Muscle loss, bone loss, reduced recovery capacity. Daily push-ups are a crude but extremely effective way of telling biology we're not retired yet. This is why people who maintain basic strength often age more slowly in function, even if they never set foot in a gym. Next is the link between strength and the sense of control over life. In clinical practice and health psychology, a clear correlation appears again and again. People who feel physically capable tend to experience less anxiety, not because they think more positively, but because their brain constantly receives physical proof that they can generate force, resist gravity, and complete a short-term uncomfortable task. 20 push-ups a day are a form of self-agency training for the brain. You do something uncomfortable, you finish it, and then you move on with your day. Over time, this builds biological confidence, not empty self-belief. Another frequently overlooked point is the effect on blood sugar and daily energy. Push-ups activate large upper body muscle groups, increasing glucose uptake independent of insulin. This means that even if your diet isn't perfect, your body still has a sink to process blood sugar. For people doing mental work, this shows up very practically. Less post-meal sluggishness, clearer thinking in the afternoon, reduced dependence on caffeine. This isn't subjective. This is physiology. And then there's the uncomfortable truth. 20 push-ups a day will not make you fully healthy. They don't replace walking. They don't replace sleep. They don't erase the damage of alcohol or chronic stress. But they do something critically important. They create a reference point. When one small behavior is maintained, other behaviors tend to self-correct. People who do push-ups daily often begin noticing posture, walking more, eating with slightly more care, not out of morality, but because the brain doesn't like sabotaging a system that's already working. Finally, this needs to be said clearly. The most dangerous state is not training too little, but training not at all. In a world where the body rarely has to resist gravity, 20 push-ups a day are a primitive reminder that you are still living in a biological body, not just a head attached to a screen. If you're looking for a place to start, without performance, without decoration, without needing perfection, this is one of the very few habits with a benefit-to-effort ratio that borders on absurd. Not because it's easy, but because it's small enough to avoid resistance and real enough that biology has to listen. Tomorrow, you might forget motivation. You might doubt yourself, but the floor will still be there. Your body weight will still be yours, and your biology will still be waiting for a familiar signal. We are still using this body. We are not done yet. So in the end, 20 push-ups a day are not an exercise. They are a signal sent to your body that you are still using it, still expecting something from it, still treating it as a system worth maintaining rather than something slowly breaking down over time. Biology doesn't need grand promises. It needs small actions repeated long enough. 20 push-ups won't change you in a day, but they change the trajectory of your body over years. In a world where people increasingly live inside their heads rather than their bodies, lowering yourself to the floor and pushing yourself back up is something primitive and real. It reminds you that health doesn't begin with apps, devices, or perfect plans. It begins with the relationship between you and your own body weight. If you're looking for a starting point, quiet, unglamorous, with no need to wait until you feel ready, this is one of the very few habits biology has almost no reason to reject. Not for motivation, not for appearance, but for structure, for function, for the ability to keep adapting. Today, you don't need to change your entire life. You just need a floor and a few minutes of honesty with your body. The rest, biology will take care of.